Everyone has a character that they want in Smash. And what do you do when you actually get that character? You pick a new one to want. So at the end of Smash Ultimate, when we were just about to find out who the final character was, my top three were Sora, which seemed like a pipe dream at the time, Crash Bandicoot, and Jonesy, who seems even less likely than Sora. But I was holding out hope for some kind of Fortnite representation in Smash. I mean, Nintendo and Epic Games have a great relationship. Fortnite is, one of the main things they talk about all the time in Switch Directs. They've got, the Fortnite console and Joy-Cons and stuff. So, it didn't seem impossible. And obviously that didn't happen, which is totally okay. But I wanted Jonesy in the game, so I wanted him modded in. So today I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Jonesy mod and trailer that I made and just give a little behind the scenes thoughts and opinions, and just talk about the process a little bit because I didn't really get to talk about it much. So the mod was loosely based on the Jonesy concept video that I made a couple years back, at least as far as the costumes go, because I couldn't do moveset editing. I don't know how advanced that is, but I don't know if it's possible, so it didn't even cross my mind. I was totally happy with just choosing some costumes and putting Jonesy over a pre-existing character. With that said, I did tweak some of the costumes that I had in the concept video. And that was because I looked at them all side by side and I realized how much green there was in it. Like 4 out of the 8 were green, at least, maybe even 5. And it just wasn't enough variety. I've spent a good chunk of my career complaining about costumes and how Lucario, Sonic, Pac-Man all just look the same. So I thought it would be really ironic if I made a mod, made a costume, a set of costumes, and a majority of them all look the same too. I don't think I would ever live it down. So I removed 3 of the costumes that were in my concept video. So the 3 skins I got rid of were Brainiac, which was a zombie skin, Bunker Jonesy, which is literally just default Jonesy, but with long hair and a long beard, and Chapter 2's default clothing. And the last 2 especially were because they literally were using the same color schemes. They just had something slightly different, like the longer beard or just different clothing, but the same colors. So I wanted to make those be sort of benched and bring in a couple of other ones to give more variety and kind of just better skins that Fortnite has. So overall, I was really happy with the costume selection that I had. I had Jonesy the First, Rex, which was the only other green one I wanted to keep because it's just too iconic not to have. Agent Jones in his, plain suit form, Mullet Marauder, Relaxed Fit Jonesy, Love Ranger, Skull Trooper, and Castaway Jonesy, because what is a Smash character without the obligatory shirtless costume? So I got all of the 3D models from the game files of Fortnite and contacted a modder I know that does really good work and commissioned them to put Jonesy into Smash Ultimate. Technically, this is something I could have done. I mean, I've made mods before, but it would have taken me a lot longer and also probably would have looked worse. So I was more than happy to pay them to do a better job than I could do. I had a few people ask why I didn't include a female character as, the alternate. So it was, 4 of Jonesy, 4 of, a female default skin. And the reason was mostly because Jonesy's like the main character of Fortnite, if you want to call him that. In the story, he's a very important character. So that was really the main driving force into why I thought that Jonesy was the only character I wanted to put in. Obviously, I'm not against, having a female alternate. In fact, I like when characters do that. But for this mod, I just kind of wanted 8 costumes of Jonesy, and I felt I could still get a good variety of skins, even if I didn't include a female alternate. As for the stage, it couldn't be anything other than Tilted Towers. I mean, it's the perfect representation of Fortnite, and just everyone knows it, Where are we dropping, boys? Tilted Towers. It's just the one that everyone knows. How could it not be what I made the stage? But initially, the stage was far more ambitious than what we actually released. In my mind, we were going to be able to 3D model sort of the background of Tilted Towers and have buildings sticking up and have it actually be, something you could tell wasn't just a PNG image in the background. But unfortunately, Fortnite doesn't agree. Because originally the game was all about collecting materials and every wall, every ceiling, and floor tile were all, destroyable, but only in those 1x1 chunks. every single little thing in Fortnite is its own 3D model. So it's not just here's a model of a building. It's here's 100 models that form the building. And I don't know if you know this, but the Nintendo Switch sucks. So doing that was not only difficult to maneuver on the PC in the 3D modeling software, but the Switch would probably explode after like 60 seconds of gameplay. So we ended up not going with that, and instead just did the PNG background. I know it's lame. Stages like Minecraft World and Great Plateau, they do it and you can tell, and it's annoying, but I get why they do it now that I've like had a hand sort of in seeing how this works. I get it. It sucks, but what are you gonna do? The Switch was as powerful as a toaster. But then we threw on, some rocks and some trees, the no dancing sign, the loot llama and the chest, and then the battle bus flies by, and overall I thought it came out really well for the sort of limitations we had to work with, and I'm really happy with the work that was done. This just made noise at me. I'm really happy with it, and this was not something, props to the modder, because this is not something that I was going to be able to do myself. I'm not smart enough. But because I wanted to release this on April Fool's Day, I wanted there to be more than just the mod release. I wanted to make a whole Smash reveal trailer, and this was a much more daunting task than I expected. So first I sort of just had all kinds of different scenes in my head that I wanted to try and figure out, and it wasn't good. My brain was kind of scrambled. So what I actually did was I did a very, very loose storyboard where I just sketched with my horrible drawing skills kind of the framing that I wanted some of these shots to have. And that really helps. Not only does it help with, figuring out the structure of how the quote unquote story is going to go for the trailer, but it kind of just gives me, a guiding frame of, actually maneuvering the camera and things like that. The final product actually differs from the way I sketched out some of the storyboarding, but it really did help with sort of guiding me and, okay, now this is where I'm going to do this shot, and then this is where I'm going to do this shot. And it just, I get why directors and film people that are actually not making silly YouTube videos, why they actually do that kind of thing. Like the shot of Master Chief ended up being over his right shoulder instead of his left shoulder as I sketched it, because it just ended up looking better in the Fortnite replay system. And I intended on using Kratos to kill Master Chief because I felt like Kratos is one of the big guys that exists both in Fortnite and as a request in Smash. And then I didn't find anyone who owned the Kratos skin because it hasn't been seen in Fortnite in 1,500 days, and no one I know bought it, including myself. So that was a tragedy. So that's why it ended up being Lara Croft instead, and then Leon S. Kennedy ended up taking Lara Croft's place and stuff. I ended up getting decent character, guest character skins in the trailer itself, but I really wish Kratos had been in there. It threw everything off a little bit. However, I'm actually really surprised at how robust the Fortnite replay system is. You're able to change the time of day and, the angle that the sun is at, and, they just have all kinds of different, angles and zooms and just different settings that you can mess with. I didn't even scratch the surface of it. I really use it just to freeze time and make sure everything matched in the actual footage. But I was really impressed. I see now how people make those sort of cinematics, because Fortnite really hands you all the tools you need to make those. That Smash invite also isn't any kind of video editing. That's literally a 3D model put into a Fortnite creative map. I bought a 3D model that had an envelope with a wax seal, and I tweaked it a little bit and gave it the Smash logo, and then using Unreal Engine for Fortnite, you can replace or include different models. And the easiest way I went about it was just replacing the XP coins with that model, so that way it would float up and down, and then when Jonesy interacts with it, he collects it. It works a little weird for the trailer, but I was really happy with how that worked out. In order to get my friends to be able to join the map, while also adding that Smash envelope and everything, I had to use my creator code to become an island map creator, whatever they call it, and actually publish it unlisted so that they could join my party and we could actually play on that map and then have it saved to replays, because I tried it and it didn't save the replay, so it was useless to me because I needed to be able to move the camera around. It was annoying, but I did it, and there is a secret map out there with Tilted Towers and the Smash envelope and literally no other changes, so I guess if you can guess those 12 wacky numbers, enjoy. And then the Smash half of the trailer was just getting footage and then making replays and recording those. I was able to use the free camera mod, and there's a mod that gets rid of the little axis in the middle, so I can kind of tweak the camera and not have that show up. And those were really helpful, but it was not fun or easy to get some of those shots because the camera it's not really that easy to control using just a game controller. Obviously, if I had debug mode like them, it would be leagues easier because I could probably make a little save state and try again and again, or just, put in the coordinates I want the camera to move to. But it worked out between video editing and, actually using some of the mods that are available. I was pretty happy with it. It could have been longer, but I was kind of out of steam a little bit, and also I just didn't really have any more ideas for the little references and things that I was doing. The only other one that didn't make the cut because it didn't really make sense with how the trailer was going was having Jonesy be in Cappen's bus, sort of like the battle bus, but that just didn't work out. Other than that, I was really happy with all the shots I got and all the references I was able to include, so there's not much more to say about that. I was also low-key scared that I would release this on April 1st and then April 2nd Nintendo would show Smash Ultimate Deluxe or Smash 7 or whatever for the Switch 2. Fortunately, that didn't happen, and we have no idea when the next Smash is going to be. So this will be the Smash we play for a while, so please play as Jonesy. Oh yeah, and Goku was supposed to be in the trailer originally, but I couldn't really find a good way to fit him the way I wanted, so he ended up being a post-credit scene. I thought it was funny.